Yes. Welcome everyone to the Happy Whole You podcast. And today I have Renée Walker with me. Renée, thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's just jump right in. If you could share with the audience who you are and how you got into the work that you're doing with so many people today.
Thank you. I am a mindset and a spiritual teacher. I, in the process, support, hold space for people to really come back to themselves, to connect with their higher knowing, their intuition, so that they can live their soul's purpose, really. And I got to this work, I want to say accidentally, but haven't we all in some way, right?
Yes.
Over 20 years ago, I remember my kids were toddlers, and I was asked to join this coaching group, not knowing anything about it, but just thinking I could certainly use a day off or an evening off at the time. And my coach at the time asked me this question, which was, tell me what you really want. Like, why are you here? And it was such a simple question, but it just completely floored me, stopped me in my tracks. I wasn't unhappy at the time per se, but I realized in that moment that I had never really asked myself that question, that I had spent by then I was in my late 20s, but I had spent my whole life really doing what was expected of me, doing what I thought was the right thing to do. And so that opened up a whole path of discovery, self-discovery, and learning mindset healing, and in time really connecting on a spiritual level, and then really feeling the calling to share that with other people.
Isn't that a interesting place we get to? That place where it's not great, but it's also not too bad.
Yes.
That space where I call it the meantime, where it's from like our lowest low to our highest high, where we go on like autopilot type of thing. And that's where like you wake up eventually and it's like a year passed, 5 years passed, a decade passed. Like, what am I doing? Where am I at? What do I want? So when you talk about the higher knowing, the intuition, like what is that?
Well, your intuition is, and I'm glad you're kind of just asking that question, because I find like there's so many buzzwords these days that we use, but we don't necessarily take the time to define it. So I do work from a belief that there is a higher energy, so a higher power that is at play, and we can use all different words for it, but something that is greater than us. And so our life, really, we are in co-creation with this energy, and our intuition is the way in which this higher energy, this higher power, is always speaking to us, guiding us, sometimes redirecting us. And so learning to really come back to that inner knowing, that voice that we all have, but for most of us, maybe the volume on it is lower than the volume of all of the external noises and the shoulds and the expectations, and all of that combined feels like it's hard to hear it. It's always present. We've kind of lost that connection to it. So when I speak of intuition, that's what I connect with.
And so how do we turn that volume up to hear that intuition?
Well, the first piece to it is really to slow down enough to actually be able to create some space and to come back to the stillness, the quiet that exists. Because we, especially now, maybe, 30, 50 years ago, we didn't need it in the same way as we do now. But now the distractions, the external noises, as we talked about, are so loud. There's so many shoulds, right? We are bombarded, especially in the world that we live in, with social media and technology, which is great. It connects us, and at the same time, it can potentially disconnect us from ourselves. So I think the most important thing is to actually be intentional with creating space to be able to hear yourself, to hear that higher knowing. And whether it's, I'm a big proponent, I am a meditation teacher, I'm a big proponent of meditation as a tool to help you cultivate that silence, but it can be whatever practice it is that for you allows you to turn off all of the external noises so that you can come back to yourself.
So when you say slow down and create space, are you saying take some deep breathing? Are you saying put down your cell phone? Because some people might be saying, okay, yeah, but like, what do you mean slow down? Like, how do I do that? This voice in my mind is going, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
What are some things that you recommend that people do to slow down and create the space you're talking of?
Yeah, so I would say that it's being able to be present, right? So your intuition speaks to you in the present moment. It doesn't speak to you from your past or kind of the thoughts that you have in your future. It speaks to you in the present moment. Usually, and this is another thing, is we tend to think that it's in the mind, it's these thoughts that we have. And, your intuition could sometimes speak to you from this knowing that you have or sensations that you have, but it's speaking to you through your body, which requires you to be fully in the present moment in order to be able to hear it. So anything that helps you, the practices that help you stay present right now and connected to your body. So that's where I said, like, meditation is a beautiful tool that helps you cultivate this present moment awareness. It helps you to be present in your body, to pay attention to what is showing up, to how you're feeling, to the thoughts you're having. You mentioned breath work. Breath work is another beautiful tool to kind of bring you in your body, to bring you in the present moment. But it can be a walk outside in nature where maybe you don't have the podcast on, or music, where you're able to actually sit and to be with what is. So whatever environments or practices that allow you the gift of being able to be present. Working out is a big one for people often because, again, they're less in their heads, you're more in your body. That's where I know I get a lot of downloads because I'm not kind of thinking about things too much. Right. I'm actually in my body sweating. I'm too tired to be in my thoughts. And then that's when you get the inspirational hits, right? In those moments. So it really is less about what we're doing, and it's more about being in or being, right? To be in that space of being where you're present to what is. Does that make sense? Right? I mean, there's so many different tools we can do. And I think sometimes we get caught up in that when it's less about that. You can be washing your dishes and be fully present. And if you're present to the experience of what you're having, then you are creating space. You are actually disconnecting from all the external noises. So it's any moment where you really are cultivating this present moment awareness.
Yes. I had a moment yesterday. Mm-hmm. I was driving down the highway and I had this idea that came to me for when I do some of my keynote speaking.
Yeah.
I wanted to shift how I open it up. And this amazing idea came through and I started to record as if I was talking on a stage. And I sent it to one of my coaches I work with. And I just started as if I was like on stage. So I didn't say, hey, I just had this idea, nothing. I just sent her this recording and she messaged me back. She's like, what was that? Like, I want to know more. Oh my gosh. And I was like, girl, I was literally just driving down the street. And like, we had coaching sessions about this, like very like, okay, I'm so focused. Like, I want to make this shift and da-da-da-da-da. And then it is interesting how when we get quiet and we're just focusing on what's here, it's like this for me, it's like a little knowing that comes in, or a little soft idea. That's how I feel like my intuition serves me. But
Mhm.
what would you say intuition is not?
Yeah.
Like, how,
Okay.
because some people say, like, how do I know it's my intuition?
Right.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, that's a big question for people. And if we can just quickly go back to the car experience, because I think it's such a great example too for people to recognize, is that, when you're trying to figure it out, like what's the best way for me to open my talk, right? You're in your conscious mind and your logical mind trying to figure it out. And I'm sure you would have come up with some great things, but
Yeah.
it's oftentimes the intuition it's in the surrendering piece. It's in the actually not being attached to it and letting it go, is when out of the blue you have this experience, this knowing. And then the other piece that's always interesting is you feel it, right? So it's, even though it's this soft thought, as you said, that you may describe, but there's something different about it. There's a different frequency or a different energy about it that is like, oh yes, this is it. That's what makes you grab your phone and share it with your coach, because there's a different resonance to it that feels different. And so part of what we were talking about with the creating space to be able to listen to your intuition, it also is a muscle. So it's paying attention to those times when, why was that different for you? What felt different about it? And really anchoring that so that we start to lean into it more. And then we, in time, start to trust it more, right? So I just had to go back to that because I love it. I love it when those moments happen. They just
Yes.
feel, they're fun too, right?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. And I love how you said it's like a muscle, because my intuition has definitely stepped its game up since
Yeah.
I started giving space,
Mm-hmm.
allowing, practicing, allowing the intuition to come through, and literally just like you said, surrendering, like having no expectation and just being, is really, for me, very, very helpful. So for somebody that says, well, what is not intuition, I
Yeah.
guess is the next piece.
Yes. No, and I think that is such an important question because it can feel a little bit confusing. So that is where discernment is always important with all of this work that we do, right? On a mindset piece, on a spiritual piece, it's really important to tune in and check in with it yourself. So I would say that where the question that will often surface up is, how do I know? Like, is it my thoughts, or how do I know versus its intuition? So the biggest thing that I will teach people to go to is to ask themselves. So much of this work is being in a space of curiosity, because there's no right or wrong answer to any of it. It's really being curious and being open to what shows up. So is this coming from love, or is this coming from fear? And I would say that is primarily the difference. Now, figuring out whether it comes from love or fear takes time. So just as we said, it's a muscle. It's a practice, right? Leaning into your intuition is a practice that develops over time. But love would be coming from a place of, that is your intuition, because it's coming from a space of unconditional love, from this higher energy that we're speaking of. Now, that being said, love, right? I know you're a mom and you have kids, and like, love is not always roses and, all fun and great. I mean, we have those beautiful moments, and also loving someone means that sometimes we need to set boundaries and we need to say no. So your intuition, even though it's coming from a place of love, may come from, it may be telling you that, okay, this relationship doesn't feel right, or something feels off about the situation. So it can still be warning you, but overall, the energy, the feel of it is, it's protective, it's loving, versus more your ego coming from a place of fear, which is, and I know you do a lot of work around the subconscious mind and your nervous system, which is wired to protect us, right? So it makes sense that will be speaking to us more from a place of fear, of keeping us small. The intuition is more expansive, while as fear, your ego, your subconscious mind is more protective. It wants to keep you safe. It doesn't want you in this expansive place. It wants to be able to control the environment and know what's happening so that it can keep you safe. So those are kind of like the two that they're always working in dual. Everything has this duality to it from an energetic perspective. So love versus fear, expansive versus more contractive, more keeping you safe. And it takes time. And this is the part that, it's important for everyone who's listening to us to understand that it takes time to develop this practice. It doesn't happen overnight. Just like any relationship that you have, you wouldn't meet someone and just expect for that relationship to immediately be deep. It takes time to get there. You get to know, to be curious, to lean into it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so good. And I love playing in this space because, I mean, honestly, like even 10 years ago, all the talk around energy, the subconscious, I'm kind of like, wait, what? Like, it seems so far away. And the more I play with it, the more I'm like, I see it every single day. And one thing I've found for myself is when the way I differentiate was that my intuition or not? If it is me being reactive, I know that was not my intuition.
Yeah.
If it is causing me to be reactive to something in the outside world, like I have to do something or I have to fix something, that is not usually my intuition. Now, when it comes to my kids, I remember one time I was going for a walk and my daughter was little, but she was still in bed. And I was just in the neighborhood and I did have this like, hey, go back home. She's coming down the stairs. And I literally walked in my door and there she was walking down the stairs. So it was very light. And yes, I got to do something, but it's more of, I don't know, there's like this reaction that I'm like, oh, I have to do this. Like, I know that's usually not my intuition coming through.
And I think it's so important for us to develop the practice of asking, where's this coming from? Like before even like making those decisions, like, is this coming from, so the terms that connect with you, is this reactive or is this is this me being intentional? Whether it's using those words or is this my intuition or is this my ego? Is this love? Is this fear? Whatever it may be, the words that connect with you, but always pausing and checking in. And I think like for people who are watching this, who are business owners, like your intuition is one of your greatest superpowers, right? Because we can over time, like when you're checking in, and I know even I also host a podcast, and I remember when I made the decision to launch the podcast, I really had to sit with myself and ask, okay, is this an ego-based decision, or is this truly because I'm feeling like this intuitively is the next step for me to be able to do the work that I want to do and to share it in the way in which I want to share it. But pausing to ask ourselves those questions on a continuous basis really helps us to stay in a more intentional place versus living from a place of being reactive, which is where a
lot of people live that
way. Yeah, I was going to say the majority of people. I don't know if that's a little harsh, but maybe not.
I mean, I used to live that way, so it's like we're all more alike than we are different. So I think it's definitely one of those things that we can be in this reactive world. I mean, that's the polarity of here on Earth, and the density of being here. So now when it comes to, there's this ability that we all have and a practice to trust our intuition, and we can trust it. It can come through stronger and stronger the more we practice it. Like you said, it's like a muscle. And then sometimes you hear people talking about manifesting and creating this life that they want. I'd love to hear, what are your thoughts on manifestation? What does manifestation even mean? And how does intuition play its role in the whole arena of manifestation?
Right. Definitely another buzzword right now is manifesting.
Yeah.
We hear it everywhere. And what I've realized is that I mean, not that my take is unique in any way, but the way in which I kind of see manifesting is co-creating. So it's co-creating with this again, higher energy. So everything we're talking about starts with a belief that there is something that's bigger than us. Otherwise, we're doing everything ourselves, which is fine. We have free will. We get to choose what our beliefs are. But manifesting would be a belief that there is a higher energy at play and that we are co-creating with this higher energy. Now, sometimes we hear of manifesting more from a physical desires, like, oh, I want this, and so I'm going to visualize and see and believe. If I believe, then this money is going to come to me, or this car, or whatever it is. There's been a lot of focus on it from like an external place, which, not that there's anything wrong with that per se, but manifesting for me, it really is about bringing you towards your soul's purpose, which is why we're here. Kind of the lessons that we're here to learn, which is unique to us, but also our soul's purpose is for us to be our fullest expression, the fullest expression of who we are, meaning that the gifts that we have, the experiences that we've had, everything kind of comes together for you. Your life is unfolding for you. And so in order to manifest and to really be our fullest expression, it starts with paying attention to our intuition, because that's how this co-creative energy is connecting, is communicating with us, right? So our intuition plays a big role in it, because that is really where we start to create some space, to pay attention, to lean into this intuitive knowing. And then once we start to turn up the volume on our intuition, on where we're feeling guided to go, to not go, all of that, we start to figure out, or to pay attention to the desires that we have, the callings that are showing up from this intuitive place, not from the place of fear. So not ego driven, not that I need to have this because it's going to give me what I think I need. It's going to validate my experience. It's really now coming from this inner place. So we have the desires, you see someone on stage and you're like, oh, wow, there's something about that lights me up. I want to do that too. So now that becomes this desire. And then the next step, so, we're paying attention to our intuition. I call it the ask please space, because we are in communication with the universe. We are asking for what it is that feels good. We're listening, we're paying attention. And then, of course, we're asked to take action. So if it's the stage, for instance, from there's a desire, and now, I really want to be a speaker, for instance. Well, it's not, what I've learned is that it's not really about being the speaker. It's about who you become in the process of being the speaker. So it's all of the healing that takes place. I know for me, one of the biggest fears I had to really move through is a fear of being seen, right? I just was hiding for so long, and I would tell myself that, oh no, I prefer to be behind the scenes. That's where I'm good, and this and that, until I realized, no, that's me playing small, and I actually do have a message that I want to share. So in taking the action, so that's the becoming place. And then there's always kind of the piece of surrendering, of letting go of the attachments, of knowing that it may not be, again, about being on stage, but that desire, that calling, that wanting is leading you towards here. But maybe the universe needs to redirect you that way, but you have to come here in order to be redirected, or you wouldn't, you can't go from A to C. You have to get to B in order to be able to even see the C in front of you, type of thing. So when I think of manifesting, it's bigger than manifesting one thing. It really is a whole process of becoming, and the whole identity piece around that, which I think is ultimately what it's all about.
Yeah. And I truly love how you said it's like about that process. It's not just about getting on that stage. And as you said that, what's interesting is as the stages become bigger and bigger in my life, I find myself still sometimes being like questioning my ability, right? Like I'm okay at this level. And then now I have this other opportunity that's like leveling up, and then I'm like all excited for it. And then as it gets closer, I'm thinking, oh gosh, like, can I really do this? And then, so it's interesting how sometimes that fear comes
Yeah.
back in, because I feel like it never truly goes away. We
Yeah.
get better at saying, oh, okay, fear, I see you, but I'm not going to spend that much time worrying about you this time like I did.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that we all get to be prepared that I think it still comes in to check us.
Yes.
For me, it does. And I try to step over it faster than I used to. I used to stay in that fear and stay smaller for longer periods of time. And now I kind of have this play where I sit and giggle with myself. I'm like, oh, you're doing that self-sabotaging thing again. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cause you're not good enough. I mean, geez, you don't deserve to be here. I mean, oh, this was just a fluke. Like, I literally like talk to myself how I would talk to a friend when
Mhm.
a friend's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, really, girl? Are you serious? You don't think you can do this because you've done this, 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 and this? And of course they see you. Of course they want you. So it's like playing with that whole fear, because the reality is I feel like it never fully goes away.
No, absolutely. And I love the way that you share it. And it's, Gay Hendricks in The Big Leap talks about it as like our upper limit, right? So we're always hitting, because we're here. Our purpose is to always be to expand. That's why it never feels good when we're feeling stuck and we're just staying in the same place. Like, we are here to expand. And so, as you said, right, the stages get bigger, the being seen is on a different level. So it's okay to take your time, but we're always, it's this thermostat setting, and this feels safe. And so as soon as I start to tap on that limit is when we start to self-sabotage. But the interesting thing, and as we're just talking about it, and as the way you talk to yourself, is that because once you start to have an understanding of it, then you see it for what it is. You're like, oh, well, I must be doing some great things, because here we go again. The fear is playing out because it actually means that I am doing something that is a stretch, that is beyond what my capacity is. So much of it in the becoming is increasing that capacity to hold. And you're right, it's always going to be present if we are in a state of expanding and we're doing, we're answering that call and we're doing more things and we're paying attention to where we're being called. It's always going to ask us to move towards more expansion, which is never going to feel safe, right? Like, that's the thing. It's always going to feel like a stretch. I know there's times when you're like, okay, enough.
Yeah. It's never going to feel safe. It's never going to feel easy. And sometimes I think there's always that question, am I ready? And it's like, of course you are, or else you would not be met with this opportunity. Opportunities only meet us when we rise to the level of that frequency, that energy, and we are ready. And so that's one thing I always have to remind myself, and I remind clients as well, because it's, there's that kind of that joke of be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
How we say be careful what you wish for, but it's really, I mean, the things that we truly desire as we up level and keep stretching and keep stretching. And before we know it, it's right here. And then we're like, oh gosh, can I really do this? Of course we can. Of course we can. And then if we fail at it, we learn so much more by failing than by just staying scared and not doing. So we might as well fail up in life.
Yeah, and I think that's why these conversations are so important too, is we create stories in our mind where we tend to think that other people, like, oh, it's so easy for you, right? What are you talking about? I've seen you on stage. You're incredible. And so it looks so easy. But in having these conversations where we open up, I know that what's been helpful for me is realizing that, yes, like, to a certain extent, as you said, we're all moving through our own stuff. And maybe yours look different than mine, but it really is a willingness to do it when you maybe don't feel ready. And then in the willingness to do it when you don't feel ready, over time, you start to feel more comfortable. And then, maybe we're seeing a version of you right now that looks so confident and has got it all figured out on stage, but you know that internally there's a new shift happening, there's a new up leveling. So it's so interesting, and I think it's so important for us to continue to have those conversations, to give other people permission to show up when it's not perfect, when you've not figured it out, and when you're far from ready, but you know there's just this knowing that it wouldn't be for you. Like the reason that you want it is because it is for you, or you wouldn't have that desire anyways. Not everyone wants to be on stage, right? Not everyone wants to write the book. Like it's there for you because it's meant for you.
I love that. Well, Renée, thank you so much for joining me. Can you let everyone know about your podcast and then where they connect with you as well on socials to, follow you, hear your work, and keep being inspired?
Wonderful. Thank you. My podcast is called Spiritually Wired with Renée. And I also, you can find me, my website is reneewalkerwellness.com, on Instagram at Renée Walker Wellness. So I would love to connect with people. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Renée, so much. And thank you for everybody that was live or that are listening on the replay. Go ahead and comment questions, whatever your heart desires, and we'll be sure to respond. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.